What I'm going to talk about today is that if you are looking for a sustainable competitive advantage, using open source technology is not enough. You got to do a lot more than that. Before we see what are those things that you got to do, let's take a step back and let's try and understand the context of using open source technologies and technology itself. Few years back, lot many businesses they come forward and they said they are actually a technology company, even though they were banks, the credit card companies, the insurance companies, many type of businesses, but they said we are actually in the business of technology because obviously they were giving the confidence to their customers that we are moving forward, we are innovating, and we understand what is the importance of technology for the business. So they all said, oh, we are a technology company, and they started working in that direction. At the same time, it will be interesting to see what were the real technology companies, the enterprise technology companies, they were doing in that time frame. Look at the companies like Microsoft, IBM, Red Hat, Google, AWS, SAP, all of them who offer enterprise technologies, they were embracing open source in a big way. It will be interesting to note, right, that these technology companies, they were all either bringing their technology in the form of open source or they were embracing open source technologies for their own purpose. And now, by the law of associativity, if you are a technology company, if you think you are a technology company and technology companies are using open source technologies, everybody started open source technologies. Everybody started using open source technologies. And the scenario, how it's changed from few years back, I remember the days of 2001 and onward to 2021, that today these enterprises, then the pull from the enterprises has increased so much that 92% of the customers that were surveyed under the state of open source in Southeast Asia, that was a survey done by Ashnik, 92% of them said they were already using open source technologies. So there is a pull from the users, from the enterprises, compared to what we used to see, a push from the companies like Red Hat, that how Red Hat open source is good for you. So today, almost everybody is using open source technology. Then what happens when you are actually trying to gain a sustainable competitive advantage? That was the reason you started using technology. That was the reason you started adopting open source. And now everybody is using it. And that's the beauty of open source technology, that it creates a level playing field. It gives the technology in the hands of everyone, whether you are a small company or a large company, you have access to the same. So when this has happened, that everybody is using open source technology, where is your competitive advantage? How are you really going to get anything more than your competitor? You are at the same place. But what I'm going to tell you, there are ways, there are things that you can do to remain competitive, to get an edge over your competitors or other businesses, if you do something more than just using open source technology. So let me tell you what is that I'm referring to. I'm talking about open source as a culture. There is a lot more that one can learn and adopt and put in practice in the organization, which takes you way ahead. Those are the things that really make a difference in your organization, in your business. It's not just the difference being brought by the technology, but by the practice that makes a business go ahead. Let us look at what are those things that you can do, or what are those things businesses are really wanting to do in their environment, in their culture, which open source actually helps you adopt very easily. Look at collaboration. Every organization wants that their team should be collaborating. And especially during the pandemic that we saw, working from home created those challenges. How do you make people collaborate when they are not in one room, they are not under one roof? Correct. Open source model has shown that for years that you could be sitting anywhere, and yet by collaboration you could develop world class software. Those are the practices that you can learn, how to use, how to leverage that, what really makes it happen, even though you could be sitting anywhere but collaborating. That is something that you can learn and apply in your organization. We want people to contribute towards the team goal, to the business unit goal, to the organization goal. How do you make people with so many dimensions, with so many dimensions of thinking to contribute towards one goal? And that is what precisely has happened in open source teams as well. We have seen people spread across the world, people who come from various nationalities, languages, beliefs, but having one thing in common, that I want to make something really world class, they contribute towards it. That one single thought binds them together and makes them contributor instead of just being downloaders, right? Open source way of development, open source culture also creates a sense of doing, being excellence, bringing excellence in whatever you do. Right? Because very nature of open source is your code is going to be seen by hundreds of thousands of millions of people, and you want to put your best foot forward. You will give everything to make it the best, and that's the culture we want in our businesses, isn't it? So open source, by adopting those cultures, you are creating that culture in your organization. Agility is the hallmark of bringing open source technology to the market. We want people to be faster, nimble, learn, try it out, bring it out, learn from it, move forward. And that is the nature of today's business. Another interesting point that I find, the open source has importance in overall organizational philosophy is in the sustainability initiative. What do we talk about sustainability? We talk about reuse, recycle, and in open source, what we are basically doing, when you are using open source code, you are just reusing the same code again and again. You are recycling that. So this way, you are contributing in a big way to your sustainability initiative. Also, I will go one step forward and say that when you use open source technologies, when you use open source code, you are actually contributing to help reduce the compute power. You help reduce the cooling power required for that compute, and you are reducing the manpower energy required to redevelop that software. So imagine if there was no open source software, you would have redeveloped that same functionality again and again and again. You are saving on that, and you are contributing in a very big way towards your sustainability. And lastly, today as a business, one of the key element is that you want a great talent. You want to attract great talent. You want to retain great talent. That's a hard part. And everybody knows people make a difference in your success. By using open source technology, by letting people know that you are using open source technology, you are creating a culture, you are attracting a great talent because they all want to work on innovative technologies. You are creating a great place to work for. So, for your talent acquisition, talent retention strategy, open source itself is a big contributor to it. So, to conclude, what I am saying is using open source technology is not enough. You got to do really adopt open source culture in your business, in your teams, and you will find that you are gaining that not just real advantage over others, but actually you are creating a great place to work for.